and send a notice out. Check. Check. Yeah, we are live. Okay. Seems to be working. And we'll get set up. All right. Okay, let me get the guitar. Okay, we're going to chant Shri Radhika Stava tonight. Okay. Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Dayate. Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Dayate. Gokulatari Mandala Maite. Gokulatari Mandala Maite. Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Dayate. Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Dayate. Namadhavarati Ardana Veshe Harinis Kutavarina Vinayashe. Namadhavarati Ardana Veshe Harinis Kutavarina Vinayashe. Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Dayate. Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Dayate. Vishabhadari Navashakshi Leke Lalita Saki Guna Ramitavi Shake. Vishabhadari Navashakshi Leke Lalita Saki Guna Ramitavi Shake. Hey Jaya Jaya Madhava Dayate. Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Dayate. Guru Guru Mai Karuna Bharate Sanaka Sanatana Varnita Charite. Karuna Bharte Sanata Sanatana Varnita Charite. Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Dayate. Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Dayate. Taruni Mandala Maite. Gokula Taruni Mandala Maite. Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada 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 Weebo Haribo Haribo Ichako Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravatikacharya also Teta Satashi Shimad, His Divine Grace Abhaya Charanada Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananda Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Say Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shidway Gadadha Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radhakrishna Gopagopadas Sayam Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavanam Ki Jai Mathuram Ki Jai Jagadasami Ki Jai Yamunamai Ki Jai Shimati Talasi Devi Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharni Nivashesha Shanyavadi Paschacha Deja Tarni. So we are going to continue with our study of the Krishna book. We're reading about Krishna's impending marriage with Kalindi, the Yamuna personified. So let's first read the translation of this poem, Shri Radhika Stava. O Radha, all glories unto you, all glories unto you, O beloved of Madhava, object of worship for all the young girls of Gokula. You dress yourself in such a way as to increase Lord Damodar's love and attachment for you. You are the controller of Vrindavan, the pleasure groves of Lord Hari. You are a new moon arisen from the ocean of King Vrishabhadhu. You are the friend of Lalita, and your wonderful qualities, friendliness, kindness, and faithfulness to Krishna endear you to Vishaka. You are an ocean of compassion, and your divine characteristics are described by the four Maras. Sanaka, Sanatana, Sananda, and Kumar. O Radha, please be merciful to me. Jai, Srila Bkgoswami Ki Jai. So, Om Gana Timiranda Shah Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmiritam Yena. Tasma Shigurve Maha, I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada, who so kindly opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge while I was blinded in the darkness of ignorance. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So, on that happy note, let's continue reading from the Krishna book about Kalindi meeting Krishna. And actually, she's going to be introduced to Krishna by Krishna's friend, Arjuna. So let's share the screen. There we go. And set everything up. All right, here we are. So, anyway, the girl is speaking to, that girl means Kalindi. The girl continued, my dear sir, I know that you are the hero, Arjuna. So I may further say that I shall not accept anyone as my husband besides Lord Vishnu, because he is the only protector of all living entities and the bestower of liberation for all conditioned souls. I shall be thankful unto you if you pray to Lord Vishnu to be pleased with me. The girl, Yamuna, knew it well that Arjuna was a great devotee of Lord Krishna, and that if he would pray, Krishna would never deny his request. To approach Krishna directly may sometimes be futile, but to approach Krishna through his devotee is sure to be successful. She further told Arjuna, my name is Kalindi, and I live within the waters of the Yamuna. My father was kind enough to construct a special house for me within the waters of the Yamuna, and I have vowed to remain in the water as long as I cannot find Lord Krishna. Arjuna duly carried the message of the girl Kalindi to Krishna. Although Krishna, as a super soul in everyone's heart, knew everything. Without further discussion, Krishna immediately accepted Kalindi and asked her to sit down in the chariot, and all of them approached King Yudhisthira. After this, Krishna was asked by King Yudhisthira to help in constructing a suitable house to be planned by the great architect Vishwakarma, the celestial engineer in the heavenly kingdom. Krishna immediately called for Vishwakarma and made him construct a wonderful city according to the desire of King Yudhisthira. When this city was constructed, of course, this is all in Indraprasth, which was previously, and let me give a little history. The Indraprasth was previously just a desert area, deserted area, infertile area where you couldn't grow anything. But what happened is that the Pandavas, along with Krishna and Balaram, enabled the area to become fertile. And in addition to that, they burnt the Kandava forest down at the behest of Agni, the fire god, who wanted to take some herbs for his stomach. And Krishna helped with that. And they saved, while they were burning the forest down, they saved this person, Maya, the demon Maya, and Maya Danava, to be precise, not the Maya that we're all in. So Maya Danava was so pleased that he arranged for so much facility, especially facilitating or helping with the construction of the city of Indraprasth, so that land looked like water, water looked like land, and later on there's some pastimes that are described about this. So there's a whole history about this. And the reason the Pandavas wanted to settle in Indraprasth is they had been given that area because Dhritarashtra, at the behest of, I guess, Vidura, had divided the kingdom up. The Kuru kingdom, they divided it up so the two groups of cousin brothers wouldn't fight. And they were given the worst area. Or even they chose the worst area, so there would be no conflict. And they made that worst area the best area. When this city was constructed, Maharaj Yudhisthira requested Krishna to live with them a few days more to give them the pleasure of his association. Lord Krishna accepted the request of Maharaj Yudhisthira and remained there for many days more. In the meantime, Krishna engaged in the pastime of offering the Kandava forest, which belonged to King Indra. Actually, just talking about that. Krishna wanted to give it to Agni, the fire god. The Kandava forest contained many varieties of drugs, and Agni required to eat them for rejuvenation. Agni, however, did not touch the Kandava forest directly, but requested Krishna to help him. Agni knew that Krishna was very much pleased with him because he had formerly given him the Sudarshana disc. So in order to satisfy Agni, Krishna became the chariot driver of Arjuna, and both went to the Kandava forest. After Agni had eaten up the Kandava forest, he was very much pleased. At this time, he offered Arjuna a special bow known as Gandiva, 4 white horses, 1 chariot, and an invincible quiver. A quiver is something used to carry the arrows, which with 2 special arrows considered to be talismans, means good luck, charms, which had so much power that no warrior could counteract them. When the Kandava forest was being devoured by the fire god Agni, there was a demon of the name Maya, which actually I just told the story, who was saved by Arjuna from the devastating fire. For this reason, that former demon became a great friend of Arjuna, and in order to please Arjuna, he constructed a nice assembly house within the city, constructed by Vishwakarma. This assembly house had some corners so puzzling that when Duryodhana came to visit this house, he was misdirected, accepting water as land and land as water. Duryodhana was thus insulted by the opulence of the Pandavas, and he later became their determined enemy, because he was already their enemy, but he became more determined to be their enemy at that particular point. And not only did Duryodhana step on what he thought was land and actually was water, and he got completely soaked, but Draupadi and some of the other ladies laughed at him when that happened, that he just became incensed. That was too much. After a few days, Lord Krishna took permission from King Yudhisthira to return to Dwarka. When he got permission, he returned to his country accompanied by Satyaki, the leader of the Yadus who were living in Hastinapur with him. Kalindi also returned with Krishna to Dwarka. After returning, Krishna consulted many learned astrologers to find the suitable moment at which to marry Kalindi, and then he married her with great pomp. The marriage ceremony gave much pleasure to the relatives of both parties, and all of them enjoyed the great occasion. The kings of Avantipura, now known as Ujjain, were named Vindhya and Anuvinda. Both kings were under the control of Duryodhana. They had one sister named Mitravinda, who was a very qualified, learned, and elegant girl, the daughter of one of Krishna's aunts. She was to select her husband in an assembly of princes, but she strongly desired to have Krishna as her husband. During the assembly for selecting her husband, Krishna was present, and he forcibly carried away Mitravinda in the presence of all the other royal princes. Being unable to resist Krishna, the princes were left simply looking at each other and one another. What happened? Krishna took the prize away. But actually, she wanted, that Swayamvara literally means Swayamvara, that it's her choice, own choice, The girl gets to choose. You understand? She has the right of refusal. She's not just like a trophy. Even if someone wins the competition, she can say no. Just like when there was Draupadi Swayamvara, that was shooting the eye of a fish that was floating in the air, etc., by looking down at some pool on the ground. You couldn't look up. When Draupadi had her Swayamvara, Karna wanted to compete, and Draupadi said no. And actually, that's because Krishna motioned to her and said, don't say no. Make a good excuse, like he's supposed to be a Shudra. After this incident, Krishna married the daughter of the king of Koshala. The king of Koshala province was called Nagnajit. He was very pious and was a follower of the Vedic ritualistic ceremonies. His most beautiful daughter was named Satya. Sometimes Satya was called Nagnajiti, for she was the daughter of the king Nagnajit. King Nagnajit wanted to give the hand of his daughter to any prince who could defeat 7 very strong stalwart bulls maintained by him. No one in the princely order could defeat the 7 bulls, and therefore no one could claim the hand of Satya. The 7 bulls were very strong, and they could hardly bear even the smell of a prince. Many princes visited the kingdom and tried to subdue the bulls, but instead of controlling them, they themselves were defeated and probably severely hurt. This news spread all over the country, and when Krishna heard that one could achieve this girl Satya only by defeating the 7 bulls, he prepared himself to go to the kingdom of Koshala. With many soldiers, he approached that part of the country known as Ayodhya, making a regular state visit. Of course, that's where Lord Rama grew up, and Lord Ram was the emperor there after he had killed Ravana and came back to the kingdom. When it became known to the king of Koshala that Krishna had come to ask the hand of his daughter, he was very much pleased. With great respect and pomp, he welcomed Krishna to the kingdom. When Krishna approached him, he offered the Lord a suitable sitting place and articles for reception. Everything appeared very elegant. Krishna also offered him respectful obeisances, thinking him to be his future father-in-law. When Satya understood that Krishna himself had come to marry her, she was very much pleased that the husband of the goddess of fortune had so kindly come there to accept her. For a long time, she had cherished the idea of marrying Krishna and was following the principles of austerities to obtain her desired husband. She then began to think, if I have performed any pious activities to the best of my ability, and if I have sincerely thought all along to have Krishna as my husband, then Krishna may be pleased to fulfill my long-cherished desire. She began to offer prayers to Krishna mentally, thinking, I do not know how the Supreme Personality of Godhead can be pleased with me. He is the master and lord of everyone, even the goddess of fortune, whose place is next to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, and many other demigods of different planets always offer their respectful obeisances unto the Lord. The Lord also sometimes descends to this earth in different incarnations to fulfill the desire of his devotees. He is so exalted and great, I do not know how to satisfy him. She thought that the Supreme Personality of Godhead could be pleased only out of his causeless mercy upon the devotee. Otherwise, there was no means to please him. Lord Chaitanya, in the same way, prayed in his Shikshashtaka verses, My Lord, I am your eternal servant. Somehow or other, I have fallen into this material existence. If you kindly pick me up and fix me as an atom of dust at your lotus feet, it will be a great favor to your eternal servant. The Lord can be pleased only by a humble attitude in the service spirit. The more we render service unto the Lord under the direction of the spiritual master, the more we make advancement on the path of approaching the Lord. We cannot demand any grace or mercy from the Lord because of our service rendered to him. He may accept or not accept our service, but the only means to satisfy the Lord is through the service attitude and nothing else. King Nagnajit was a pious king, and having Lord Krishna in his palace, he began to worship him to the best of his knowledge and ability. He presented himself before the Lord thus, My dear Lord, you are the proprietor of the whole cosmic manifestation, and you are Narayan, the resting place of all living creatures. You are self-sufficient and pleased with your personal opulences, so how can I offer you anything? And how could I please you by such an offering? It is not possible, because I am an insignificant living being. Actually, I have no ability to render any service unto you. Krishna is the super soul of all living creatures, so he could understand the mind of Satya. He was also very much pleased with the respectful worship of the king and offering him a sitting place, eatables, a residence, and so on. He was appreciative, therefore, that both the girl and her father were eager to have him as their intimate relative. He smiled and in a grave voice said, My dear King Nagnajit, you know very well that anyone in the princely order who is regular in his position will never ask anything from anyone, however exalted he may be. Such requests by a Kshatriya king have been deliberately forbidden by the learned Vedic followers. If a Kshatriya breaks this regulation, his action is condemned by learned scholars. But in spite of this rigid regulative principle, I am asking you for the hand of your beautiful daughter just to establish our relationship in return for your great reception of me. So that's just a Kshatriya rule. Kshatriya is not allowed to beg. Brahmanas, they can beg. Vaishyas are not supposed to beg. Shudras certainly are not supposed to beg. So anyway, so Brahmins exist by charity of others. Kshatriyas exist by taxation. They tax others, and sometimes they fight battles, and they have the spoils. And Vaishyas exist by trade, commerce, etc., cow protection. Shudras exist by getting salaries. You may also be pleased to be informed that in our family tradition, there is no scope for our offering anything in exchange for accepting your daughter. We cannot pay any price you may impose for delivering her. In other words, Krishna wanted the hand of Satya from the king without fulfilling the condition of defeating the 7 bulls. After hearing the statement of Lord Krishna, King Nagnajit said, My dear Lord, you are the reservoir of all pleasure, all opulences, and all qualities. The goddess of fortune, Lakshmiji, always lives on your chest. Under these circumstances, who can be a better husband for my daughter? Both my daughter and I have always prayed for this opportunity. You are the chief of the Yadu dynasty. You may kindly know that from the very beginning, I have made a vow to marry my daughter to a suitable candidate, one who can come out victorious in the test I have devised. I have imposed this test just to understand the prowess and position of my intended son-in-law. You, Lord Krishna, are the chief of all heroes. I'm sure you will be able to bring these 7 bulls under control without any difficulty. Until now, they have never been subdued by any prince. Anyone who's attempted to bring them under control has simply had his limbs broken. In other words, Nagnajit had this test so that only Krishna would win. He arranged that. Just like Drupada had his test of bowmanship, as I mentioned before, hitting the eye of the fish that was floating in the air. So only Arjuna could win. Drupada was advised to do it in that way, even though many people thought that Arjuna had perished in the house of lack, which we talked about the other day. So, but Krishna knew that Arjuna had not perished, and Krishna sort of informed Drupada that you should do this so that only Arjuna can win the competition. And Drupada agreed, and Arjuna won the competition. So sometimes the competitions are arranged in such a way that only one person would possibly or could possibly succeed in this competition. King Nagnajit continued his request. Krishna, if you'll kindly bridle the 7 bulls and bring them under control, then undoubtedly you will be selected as the desired husband of my daughter Satya. After hearing this statement, Krishna could understand that the king did not want to break his vow. So vows were very important in those days, except for the Shudras. Like someone who is high class will not break their promise or vow, unless you can save someone's life by doing so, or please the Lord, okay? Those are the circumstances where it's allowed. Like Krishna, he vowed not to fight in the Battle of Kurukshetra, but in order to save his devotee Arjuna, he grabbed the chariot wheel and rushed at grandfather Bhishma. So sometimes to save someone's life, like if someone's life is in danger and you can protect them by lying or something like that, go ahead. That's a higher priority than vows. Of course, grandfather Bhishma didn't understand that. So he kept his vow, and his keeping his vow endangered the whole dynasty, endangered Hastinapur. So he should have understood at that time, it's time to break your promise. Thus, in order to, so what was his promise? To always listen to whoever was the king. That meant he had to listen to Dhritarashtra, which was crazy. Thus, in order to fulfill his desire, he tightened his belt and prepared to fight with the bulls. He immediately divided himself into 7 Krishnas, and each one of them immediately caught hold of a bull and bridled its nose, thus bringing it under control as if it were a plaything. Krishna dividing himself into 7 is very significant. It was known to Satya, the daughter of King Nagnajit, that Krishna had already married other wives, but still she was attached to Krishna. In order to encourage her, so Krishna had his own purpose, his esoteric purpose for defeating the bulls by dividing himself into 7. He wanted to encourage her. Look, I can marry any number of girls because I can just divide myself up and none of you are going to be bereft of my association even for a minute. Don't worry. This is to placate her. Krishna immediately expanded himself. 7, the purport is that Krishna is one, but he has unlimited forms of expansions. He married many thousands of wives, that's 16,108. But this does not mean that while he was with one wife, the others were bereft of his association. Krishna could associate with each and every wife by his expansions. Very, very interesting. So Krishna could have taken care of the bulls through other means. He could have just moved very, very quickly and bridled the bulls. So Krishna decided to do it in that particular way to really assure Satya that, no problem. You always have me. When Krishna brought the bulls under his control by bridling their noses, their strength and pride were immediately smashed. The name and fame which the bulls had attained was thus vanquished. I'm sure the bulls didn't worry about that too much. When Krishna had the bulls bridled, he pulled them strongly, just as a child pulls a toy wooden bull. Upon seeing this advantage of Krishna, King Nagnajit became very much astonished and immediately, with great pleasure, brought his daughter Sacha before Krishna and handed her over to him. Krishna also immediately accepted Sacha as his wife. Then there was a marriage ceremony with great pomp. The queens of King Nagnajit were also very much pleased because their daughter Sacha had got Krishna as her husband. Since the king and queens were very much pleased on this auspicious occasion, there was a celebration all over the city in honor of the marriage. Everywhere were heard the sounds of the conch shell and kettle drum and various other vibrations of music and song. The learned brahmanas showered their blessings upon the newly married couple. In jubilation, all the inhabitants of the city dressed themselves with colorful garments and ornaments. King Nagnajit was so much pleased that he gave a dowry to his daughter and son-in-law as follows. Big dowry. First of all, he gave them 10,000 cows and 3,000 well-dressed young maidservants ornamented up to their necks. This system of dowry is still current in India, especially for Kshatriya princes. When a Kshatriya prince is married, at least a dozen maidservants of a similar age are given along with the bride. They're the friends of the bride, actually. After giving the cows and maidservants, the king enriched the dowry by giving 9,000 elephants, and 100 times more chariots than elephants. This means that he gave 900,000 chariots, and he gave 100 times more horses than chariots, or 90 million horses. A lot of big dowry. How is that possible? Krishna's God, and Krishna can do anything and allow the king to do anything. It's inconceivable. And 100 times more men servants than horses. Royal princes maintain such maid servants and maidservants with all provisions as if they were their own children or family members. After giving this dowry, the king of Koshala province bade his daughter and great son-in-law be seated on a chariot and allowed them to go to their home, guarded by a division of well-equipped soldiers. As they traveled fast to their new home, the king's heart was enlivened with affection for them. Before this marriage of Sacha with Krishna, there have been many competitive engagements with the bulls of King Nagnajit, and many other princes of the Yadu dynasty and of other dynasties as well had tried to win the hand of Sacha. When the frustrated princes of the other dynasties heard that Krishna was successful in getting the hand of Sacha by subduing the bulls, naturally they became envious. Who is this Krishna? While Krishna was traveling to Dwarka, all the frustrated and defeated princes encircled him and began to shower their arrows on the bridal party. When they attacked Krishna's party and shot arrows like incessant torrents of rain, Arjuna, the best friend of Krishna, took charge of the challenge, and he alone very easily drove them off to please his great friend Krishna on the occasion of his marriage. Arjuna immediately took up his bow, Gandiva, and chased away all the princes exactly as a lion drives away all small animals simply by chasing them. Arjuna drove away all the princes without killing even one of them. After this, the chief of the Yadu dynasty, Lord Krishna, along with his newly married wife and the huge dowry, entered the city of Dwarka with great pomp. Krishna then lived there with his wife very peacefully. Besides Kunti Devi, Krishna had another paternal aunt. Her name was Shruta Kirti, and she was married and lived in the Kekaya province. I guess that's where Kekai came from, who was a famous personality in the Ramayana, who really hurt Dasaratha. I'm not going to get into that story. She had a daughter whose name was Bhadra. Bhadra wanted to marry Krishna, and her brother handed her over to him unconditionally. Krishna accepted her as his bona fide wife. Thereafter, Krishna married a daughter of the king of the Madras province. Her name was Lakshmana, and she had all good qualities. She was also forcibly married by Krishna, who took her in the same way that Garuda snatched the jar of nectar from the hands of the demigods. Krishna kidnapped this girl in the presence of many other princes in the assembly of her Swayamvara. The Swayamvar is a ceremony in which the bride can select her own husband from an assembly of many princes. The description of Krishna's marriage with the 5 girls mentioned in this chapter is not sufficient. He had many other thousands of wives besides them. Krishna accepted the other thousands of wives after killing a demon named Baumasura. All these thousands, that's a little too far. All these thousands of girls were held captive in the palace of Baumasura, and Krishna released them and married them. So, thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 58th chapter of Krishna, 5 queens married by Krishna. So that's 58. Let me just write down 58. Second part of 58 we did today. So, chapter 59 gets more interesting. The deliverance of the demon Baumasura. That means the earth demon. And the reason he's called the earth demon, he was the son of the earth. The backstory to his birth is that Lord Varaha, the boar incarnation of Krishna, lifted the earth planet up with his tusks. And because Krishna, God in his various incarnations, expansions, can do anything with any part of his body, Angani, Yasha, Shakalandriya, Timanti, Vashanti, Panti, Kayanti, Charam, Giganti. So he impregnated her and impregnated the earth planet, and the earth planet gave birth to little baby Boma. And he was a nice guy, but through bad association, he became a demon. And Bhumi, the mother, this earth, understood that her son was most likely to be killed by Krishna, and she begged Krishna not to kill her son. And Krishna said, I will not kill your son, our son, unless you give me permission. And Krishna had a really fancy way of getting permission, because when he went to kill Baumasura, he brought with him Satyabhama, who is an expansion. Whom he expands from. Sorry, got it backwards. Who Bhumi expands from. So Bhumi is an expansion of Satyabhama. So he got permission from Satyabhama to kill her son, or Bhumi's son, which, things equal to the same thing are equal to each other, as they say. So Krishna was very, very tricky. So Boma was actually his son. And so let's start the story. There's a little background. The story of Baumasura, how he kidnapped and made captive 16,000 princesses by collecting them from the palaces of various kings, and how he was killed by Krishna, the supreme lord of all wonderful character, is described by Shukadeva Goswami to King Parikshit in Srimad Bhagavatam. Generally, the demons are always against the demigods. This demon, Baumasura, having become very powerful, took by force the umbrella from the throne of the demigod Varuna. He also took the earrings of Aditi, the mother of the demigods. He conquered the portion of heavenly Mount Meru known as Mani Parvata, the jeweled mountain, and occupied it. The king of the heavenly planets, Indra, therefore came to Dwarka to complain about Baumasura before Lord Krishna. And he was powerful because he was Krishna's son. Hearing this complaint by Indra, the king of heaven, Lord Krishna, immediately accompanied by his wife Satyabhama, immediately started for the abode of Baumasura. The two of them, so remember, he's bringing Satyabhama, from whom Bhumi expands, and he wants to get Satyabhama's permission to kill Boma, who was actually their son. Got it? He's very tricky. The two of them rode on the back of Garuda, who flew them to Pradyotishapura, Baumasura's capital city. To enter the city of Pradyotishapura was not a very easy task, because it was very well fortified. First of all, there were 4 strongholds guarding the 4 directions of the city, which was well protected on all sides by formidable military strength. The next boundary was a water canal all around the city. And in addition, the whole city was surrounded by electric wires. Ooh. Sounds like a prison. The next fortification was anila, a gaseous substance. After this, There was a network of barbed wire constructed by a demon of the name Mura, the Mura demon, who Krishna's going to kill also. The city appeared very well protected, even in terms of today's scientific advancements. When Krishna arrived, he broke all the strongholds to pieces by the strokes of his club and scattered the military strength here and there by the constant onslaught of his arrows. With his celebrated Sudarshana chakra, he counteracted the electrified boundary, annihilated the canals of water and the gaseous boundary, and cut to pieces the electrified network fabricated by the demon Mura. By the vibration of his conch shell, he broke the hearts of the great fighters and also broke the fighting machines that were there. Similarly, he broke the walls around the city with his invincible club. The vibration of Lord Krishna's conch shell sounded like a thunderbolt at the time of the dissolution of the whole cosmic manifestation. The demon Mura heard the vibration of the conch shell, awakened from his sleep, and came out to see what had happened. So he's the guard. He had 5 heads and had been long living within the water. The Mura demon was as brilliant as the sun at the time of the dissolution of the cosmos, and his temper was like blazing fire. Wow. The effulgence of his body was so dazzling that he was difficult to see with open eyes. When he came out, he first took out his trident and rushed the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The demon Mura in his onslaught was like a big snake attacking Garuda. His angry mood was very severe, and he appeared ready to devour the 3 worlds. First of all, he attacked the carrier of Krishna Garuda by whirling and then throwing his trident, and through his 5 mouths, he vibrated sounds like the roaring of a lion. These roaring vibrations spread all over the atmosphere until they extended all over the world and into outer space, up and down and out to the 10 directions, rumbling throughout the entire universe. Lord Krishna saw that the trident of the Mura demon was rushing toward his carrier Garuda. Immediately, by a trick of his hand, he took 2 arrows and threw them toward the trident, cutting it to pieces. Simultaneously, using many arrows, he pierced the mouths of the demon Mura. When the Mura demon saw himself outmaneuvered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he immediately began to strike the Lord in great anger with his club. But Lord Krishna, with his own club, broke the club of Mura to pieces before it could reach him. The demon, bereft of his weapon, decided to attack Krishna with his strong arms, but Krishna, with the aid of his Sudarshan chakra, immediately separated the demon's 5 heads from his body. The demon then fell into the water, just as the peak of a mountain falls into the ocean after being struck by the thunderbolt of Indra. This demon Mura had 7 sons named Tamra, Antariksha, Shavana, Vibhavashu, Vashu, Nabhashwan, and Aruna. All of them became puffed up and vengeful because of the death of their father, and to retaliate. Other people have to tell me. Let me just, okay. I took care of it. All right, let's go back. Sorry about that. Okay. And to retaliate, they prepared themselves in great anger to fight with Krishna. They equipped themselves with the necessary weapons and situated Pitta, another demon, to act as commander in the battle. By the order of Baumasura, all of them combinedly attacked Krishna. When they came before Lord Krishna, they began to shower him with many kinds of weapons like swords, clubs, lances, arrows, and tridents. But they did not know that the strength of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is unlimited and invincible. Krishna, with his arrows, cut all the weapons of the men of Baumasura into pieces like grains. Krishna then threw his weapons, and Baumasura, commander-in-chief Pitta, along with his assistants, fell down, their military dress cut off, and their heads, legs, arms, and thighs severed. All of them were sent to the superintendent of death, Yamaraj. Baumasura, who was also known as Narakasura, same thing, happened to be the son of the earth personified. When he saw that all of his soldiers, commanders, and fighters had been killed on the battlefield by the strokes of the weapons of the personality of Godhead, he became exceedingly angry at the Lord. He then came out of the city with a great number of elephants who had been Born and brought up on the seashore, all of them were highly intoxicated. When they came out, they saw that Lord Krishna and his wife were beautifully situated high in outer space, just like a blackish cloud above the sun, glittering with the light of electricity. The demon Baumasura immediately released a weapon called Shatabli, by which he could kill hundreds of warriors with one stroke, and all his assistants simultaneously threw their respective weapons at the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lord Krishna counteracted all these weapons by releasing his feathered arrows. The result of this fight was that all the soldiers and commanders of Baumasura fell to the ground, their arms, legs, and heads separated from their trunks, and all their horses and elephants also fell with them. In this way, all the weapons released by Baumasura were cut to pieces by the Lord's arrows. The Lord was fighting on the back of Garuda, who was helping him by striking the horses and elephants with his wings and scratching their heads with his nails and sharp beak. The elephants, feeling much pain from Garuda's attack on them, all dispersed from the battlefield. Baumasura alone remained on the battlefield, and he engaged himself in fighting with Krishna. He saw that Krishna's carrier, Garuda, had caused great disturbance to his soldiers and elephants, and in great anger, he struck Garuda with all his strength, which defied the strength of a thunderbolt. Fortunately, Garuda was not an ordinary bird, and he felt the strokes given by Baumasura, just as a great elephant feels the impact of a garland of flowers. Baumasura thus came to see that none of his tricks would act upon Krishna, and he became aware that all his attempts to kill Krishna would be frustrated. Yet he tried for a last time, taking a trident in his hand to strike him. Krishna was so dexterous that before Baumasura could throw his trident, his head was cut off by the sharp Sudarshana chakra. His head, illuminated by earrings and a helmet, fell down on the battlefield. On the occasion of Baumasura's being killed by Lord Krishna, all the demons' relatives screamed in disappointment. And the saintly persons glorified the chivalrous activities of the Lord. Taking this opportunity, the denizens of the heavenly planets showered flowers on the Lord. At this time, the earth personified appeared before Lord Krishna and greeted him with a Vaijayanti flower garland. She then returned the dazzling earrings of Aditi, bedecked with jewels and gold. She also returned the umbrella of Varuna along with a valuable jewel, which she presented to Krishna. After this, the earth personified offered her prayers to Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead and Master of the world, who is always worshipped by exalted demigods. She fell down in obeisances and with great devotional ecstasy began to speak. Now remember, her son had just been killed. Still, she was overcome by devotion toward the person who had killed her son. Interesting. Actually, Krishna killed everybody. And the Gita, Krishna says, Mitru Saras Chaham, I am all devouring death. That is one of the features of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in spite of Krishna killing all of us, Prabhupada one time said, you can tell your age by how close you are to death. That means how old you are. Anyway, let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the Lord, who is always present with four symbols, namely his conch shell, disc, lotus, and club, and who is the Lord of all demigods. Please accept my respectful obeisances unto you. My dear Lord, you are the super soul, and in order to satisfy the aspirations of your devotees, you descend to earth in your various transcendental incarnations, which are just appropriate to the devotee's worshipable desire. Kindly accept my respectful obeisances. My dear Lord, the lotus flower grows out of your navel, and you are always decorated with a garland of lotus flowers. Your eyes are always spread like the petals of a lotus flower, and therefore they are all pleasing to the eyes of others. Your soft and delicate lotus feet are always worshipped by your unalloyed devotees, and those lotus feet pacify their lotus-like hearts. I therefore repeatedly offer my respectful obeisances unto you. You possess all beauties, strength, fame, property, knowledge, and renunciation. There's the opulences again. You are the shelter of all six opulences. Although you are all pervading, you have appeared as the son of Vasudeva. Please, therefore, accept my respectful obeisances. You are the original personality of God, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the supreme cause of all causes. Only your lordship is the reservoir of all knowledge. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto you, Personally, you are unborn. Still, you are the father of the whole cosmic manifestation. You are the reservoir and shelter of all kinds of energies. The manifested appearance of this world is caused by you, and you are both the cause and effect of this cosmic manifestation. Please, therefore, accept my respectful obeisances. My dear Lord, as for the three gods, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, they're not independent of you. When there's a necessity of creating this cosmic manifestation, you create your passionate appearance of Brahma, and when you want to maintain this cosmic manifestation, you expand yourself as Lord Vishnu, the reservoir of all goodness. Similarly, you appear as Lord Shiva, master of the mode of ignorance, and thus dissolve the whole creation. You always maintain your transcendental position. In spite of creating these three modes of material nature, you were never entangled in these modes of nature as the ordinary living entities are. So we're going to stop there. 9A. And allow you to take questions, and we'll hopefully continue at this point tomorrow. So, let me allow you to mute yourselves. Okay, so who has a question or comment? You can raise your hand, you can unmute yourself. Jagat, you have a question.
It says that he sent the guards to the abode of Yamaraj, although he killed them personally.
Yeah, I was thinking about that as I read it. Actually, they were liberated, but it's an expression. You know, just like you have a honey bhutani gachanti Yamalayam, that we see everyone else go to Yamaraj, and we think, I'm not going to go to Yamaraj. But it's an expression to indicate dying sometimes. That's the explanation. You know, when we say, we sent you to the Lord of Death, doesn't necessarily mean you go to see the Lord of Death, it means you died. And what happened later may vary according to the circumstance. Yeah, I actually noted that as I was reading. Thank you for that question. Okay, and Mr. Gopal, you have a question.
Please accept my obeisances, Srila Gurudev. Baumasura, was he aware of who his father was?
I can't say. I have to ask him. I have no idea. I mean, it's not really mentioned. Certainly Bhumi was. And she knew, I mean, she's offering these prayers, you know, she knows that Krishna is God, and she knows that Lord Varaha is God. So things equal to the same things I said before, equal to each other. So whether she revealed it to him or not. And actually, the story of Baumasura is a story that I oftentimes use to illustrate the point that nurture is actually more important than nature. Nature is what you're born with. Nurture means what happens to you afterwards, your association, how you're brought up, or even what happens to you when you make your choices as an adult. Just like we have this prayer, Om Gana Timirandasha, etc. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and by the association, Janmana Jayate Shudra, Samskara Bhavetrijam, by the proper samskara and association, one can actually become a Dvija, or twice born, or one can change his nature. Or the example given by the Acharyas, Sanatana Goswami, is that bell metal, when treated by the right process, you know, with mercury, by the right process, can be turned into gold. That's called alchemy. So that's really what we're talking about here. Alchemy in the opposite direction. That Baumasura was born with good qualities. I mean, can't do better as far as your mother and father, you know, Bhumi and Krishna, Bhudevi and Krishna. You can't do better. I mean, you got some good genes, pretty good genes there. And by association, he became demoniac. By bad association, he became. And so The same thing can happen to us in either direction. By good association, we can become godly. Or if we give up that good association, then Punar Mushika Bhava, again, we can become what we were before. That's up to us. That's our choice. You have free will. Okay?
Thank you, Gurudev.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Sam, you have a question. Okay, go ahead.
Hare Krishna. Lord Brahma came off the navel of Narayana. Where did Lord Shiva come from?
Lord Shiva manifests through several different means. One is through the glance of Lord Vishnu. That's Shambhu. That's one manifestation of Lord Shiva. And then another manifestation is through the anger of Lord Brahma. 11 manifestations called the Rudras came out from the anger of Lord Brahma. And those were called Rudras, and they were going to destroy the universe. And Lord Brahma, in order to pacify them, got them married to 11 Rudranis. So anyway, so there's different manifestations. Lord Shiva manifests as the Dikpal, the guardian of the holy Dham. The Lord Shiva manifests as Shambhu, who is the progenitor in this material world, who consorts with Durga and implants all of us within this material world. Lord Shiva manifests as anger. Lord Shiva manifests in Mount Kailash. So he has just like Krishna has practically an unlimited number of manifestations and expansions, and appears in so many different ways through the sometimes through being born from his devotees, sometimes by coming out of the nostril of Lord Brahma, as in the case of Lord Varaha. Krishna appears in just amazing ways, sometimes being churned out of the ocean of nectar, the milk ocean as Dhanvantari. So Krishna has a whole variety of ways in which he appears. So Lord Shiva has a whole variety, but the most prominent are the glance of Lord Vishnu and the anger of Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma got angry when his 4 sons, the Kumaras, refused to get married, and he wanted to arrange their marriage. So anyway, hope that answers your question. Okay. So who else has a question? Wow. Nobody else has a question. You can type in the text window. Rishikesh, okay.
Gurudev, where was the city of this Baumasura? Some name, but do you know which it was in India or something?
Tisha, something like that. Whatever it says in the chapter.
In modern days, what is it called in?
That's a good question. I don't think Prabhupada mentions that. Anyway, we'll have to consult the Bhagavatam or consult some great sage or Puranas to figure that one out. City of Baumasura. Where is the city of Baumasura? Let me do it quick. When in doubt, ask Google. Not Google. So where is the city of Baumasura? Prajyotinapura. Here it is. Guwahati in Assam, India. Got it?
Where is it? South India? Is it?
No, Assam.
Assam. Okay. Got it, Guru.
Yeah. How do you pronounce that? Guwahati? Guwahati? How do you pronounce it?
Guwahati. Yes, I know Guwahati. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's in Assam, India. And it's
Interesting.
that's where he had his capital. Hey,
Okay.
interesting information. Yeah, when in doubt, Google Baumasura.
Amazing.
Yeah, Google's our the Gopal said that Gopi Pranadana Prabhu said it's not on this planet. So Anyway, wherever it is, it's Guwahati. And just like there's local representatives of different, let us say, different abodes of the Lord. So that may be like that too. So anyway, wherever it is, it could be on this planet because he's Baumasura, so he's with his mother.
Guwahati is still name as Guwahati. Even currently, it's the same name.
Are there any demons there?
Maybe.
Guwahati.
Still, the city is still there actually. The same name.
Baumasura. Let me just check this again. Yeah, it's several places it's mentioned that is Guwahati. Huh. Baumasura. I wonder if they have a museum or replicas there of Baumasura's place. Like they have Hobalam, Hobalam has the pillar and the different Nishingadev deities. I wonder if they worship Baumasura. Okay.
Quite possible.
All right. Thank you very much. It's time to end. Thank you very much. We'll see everybody same time, same station tomorrow. All glories to Divine Grace.